I'm Informatio, and for my first ever movie review, I'm going to be tackling A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now before I do this, I want everyone to know I love this movie. I'm going to be pointing out its flaws and poking fun of it, of course, but I love this movie, and I don't think horror movies would be where they are today without this movie. That being said, off to the review! Poster art. I love poster art, especially well-done poster art. Now, all the posters I just showed you range anywhere from well-done to plain old obscure, but the one I want to talk about is the last one I showed you, done by Matthew Peak. Now, Matthew Peak is like the Alex Ross of horror movies. Why? Just take a look. His watercolors are full of life and brilliant, yet at the same time he's able to keep the scene very disturbing and eerie. A Nightmare on Elm Street was a New Line Cinema production. It was made in 1984, and it had a budget of a little under $2 million. Now, to come in under budget, Wes and crew had to do a lot of outside-the-box thinking, which I will be humbly pointing out to you throughout the review. That's a gift. Now let's get to the meat of this review, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Start the movie with one of our protagonists, Tina, who's running down a dark hallway chasing eerie music. So Tina goes on to explore this creepy boiler room, and we get to see brief scenes of Freddy as he stalks her. Until finally, after Tina realizes her nightgown has been slashed, her mother comes in to check on her.
Just a dream, Ma.
Some dream, judging from that. You know, honey, you gotta cut your fingernails. You gotta stop that kind of dreaming.
Alright, this is where a trend starts in the movie. All the adults in the town are either an asshole or a moron. Or both. It starts with Tina's parents and goes right on down to the simple police of the town. Tina grabs the closest conveniently placed crucifix and gets ready for a good night's sleep. And she best rests up because she's got a big day at school tomorrow with her boyfriend, Rod.
I had a heart-on this morning when I woke up, Tina. Had your name written all over it.
A very classy man.
Get it, Tina.
Her best friend, Nancy, and her boyfriend, Johnny Depp.
Madness. It made no sense at all.
So apparently Tina's wonder parents are out of town and have left her alone for the night. So Nancy and Glenn, stay over to keep her company.
But you dream. I dreamed about a guy.
Tina and Nancy discuss their dreams and realize the odd similarities.
What about the fingernails? Oh, he scraped his fingernails along things. Actually, they were more like finger knives or something he'd made himself. They made a horrible sound. Nancy, you dreamed about the same creep I did. I heard something.
Well, I say we make Glenn go check it out. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I knew I was fucked. There was madness in any direction, at any hour. You could strike sparks anywhere.
So Glenn walks around the yard yelling random things into the bushes.
Kitty, kitty. Chow-chow-chow.
Cha-cha-chow. Well, I've never heard that call before. But luckily, I've got my big book of calls right here. And we're just gonna take a look and see what we can find here. See. Cha-cha-chow. Apparently it's the call for the wild douchebag. Well, let's see if he... Oh, he's got one now. And that's a big one.
So what's going on here? An orgy or something?
Charming as ever.
Maybe a funeral, dickhead.
It's just a sleepover date, Rod. Tina and me. Glenn was just leaving.
What is Nancy from the streets? Look how she handles this guy. King of the Tools here pulls out a knife on her man, and she immediately grabs grabs his arm, slowly takes the knife out of his hand, retracts the blade, and then hands it back to him without even flinching.
Your mom ain't home, is she?
So once Rod figures out Tina's parents aren't home, he carries her to the bedroom like the gentleman he is. Now Glenn tries to get some well-deserved action for having been pushed out into the backyard and also for having to put up with Rod, but he is promptly turned down
For Tina now, not ourselves.
and sent to the couch where he was forced to listen to Rod get laid.
Morality sucks.
I knew there was something about you I liked.
Your penis!
All right.
Jungle Man fixed Jane.
With your penis!
Fights.
No more fights.
So we switch over to Nancy sleeping in Tina's bed, where we get to see what I think is one of the creepiest scenes in the movie. Now this is the first of what I like to call Wes Craven's Let's Keep Things Cheap scenes. This is where I point out how Wes and the crew do special effects and still manage to keep it under budget. Way under budget. To pull this one off, Jim Doyle, the special effects master of this film, went out and bought 10 cents worth of spandex. He put it up on the wall, asked Robert to push his head and hands through it, and we came up with this great effect. So we switch back to Tina's room, where we find her waking up to yet another strange noise.
Rod?
Oh, I'll just let him sleep. It's only loud pounding at my window in the middle of the night.
Somebody there?
So, of course, she goes outside towards the scary, unknown voice calling her name.
Who the hell is that?
Then she ventures even further towards the mysterious voice and finds herself in a dark alleyway. And it looks like she's found the source of that scary voice she's been so determined to find. And here we have our second Let's Keep Things Cheap scene. Now this one might be a little more obvious on how they pulled it off, but that doesn't take anything away from the genius of this effect. All they really did was string his arms along from atop the garages, but the bizarre movement they got from this method can really creep you out in this scene.
This is God.
Just look at him run. So here we get a great chase scene with some nice slasher teleporting. Then Freddy tackles Tina right into our third Let's Keep Things Cheap scene. For this one, they actually had to build a puppet Robert. To make his face slide off, they glued it on with KY jelly, which I guess Jim Doyle just had lying around. And this only took one take. Face slid right off. So we switch out of dream world back into the real world, and as soon as Rod realizes Tina's not trying to give him some kind of crazy BJ, he springs into action. And by spring into action, I mean he fumbles around and doesn't help at all. Now this is one of the greatest scenes in horror movie history, so I'm not going to degrade it with any pranks or gags or... Alright, maybe just this one. Tina dead on the floor.
It's just like a man to find a reason to leave right after sex.
So we find Nancy in the police station with her mother, as we
you.
find out her father is chief of police.
What was she doing there?
Hello to you too, Donald.
Marge.
And apparently, he isn't too fond of his wife. So Nancy's loving father berates her while she's under the mental stress of her best friend's death.
But I sure would like to know what the hell you were doing shacking up with 3 other kids in the middle of the night, especially a lunatic delinquent like Lane.
Nancy said they'd had a fight.
It wasn't that serious.
Maybe you don't think murder is serious.
And her mom acts like a stupid bitch. More expert parenting by Wes Craven, ladies and gentlemen. The next morning at Nancy's house, her mom is having her morning vodka and watching poorly handled crime scenes on TV.
Where do you think you're going?
School.
Nancy convinces her drunk mother to let her go to school.
I've got to go to school, Mother, otherwise I'll sit up there and go crazy.
But on the way, Rod shows up to eloquently explain what happened the night prior.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt you.
You're hurting me now!
Just move away from us, son. Real easy, like your ass depended on it.
So it turns out that Nancy's dad followed her and Rod gets arrested.
What the hell were you doing going to school today for anyway?
So after Nancy's dad scolds her for going to school, she hurries off to class, where this guy's reading puts her to sleep.
Calming state of Rome, a little air, the mightiest Julius fell.
And the room takes a turn for the creepy.
Oh God, I could be bounded in a nutshell. Were it not that I have bad dreams.
Oh, come on, Nancy. You're the most confident character in this movie. Don't fall.
Tina?
So Nancy runs after Tina's obvious corpse and bumps into a hall monitor who shops at the same store Mr. Kruger does.
Where's your pass?
Screw your pass.
So she follows the trail of her friend's blood down some stairs till finally she ends up in, of course, a scary boiler room. Let's see. Brief scenes with Freddy, scary boiler room. You better watch yourself, Nancy. This is how it started for Tina.
Who are you?
So Freddy chases Nancy a bit until he has her cornered. But she's able to burn herself on the pipe and wake herself up.
I'm okay. I'm fine. Yeah, I'll go straight home.
You'll need a hall pass.
Screw your pass.
So Nancy goes to visit Ron in jail and try to find out more about what happened to Tina.
It was dark, but I'm sure there was somebody in there, under the covers with her.
What did he look like? Did you get a look at him?
No.
Well, then how do you know that somebody else was there?
Because somebody cut her while I watched.
Emphasis on watch.
I probably could have saved her. If I'd have moved sooner.
Yeah, that's very true.
But I thought it was just another nightmare.
So finally, Rod starts to talk about his dreams.
There was this guy. He had knives for fingers.
But this freaks Nancy out, and she takes off without warning Rod about the dangers of falling asleep. And to stay awake herself, she decides to take a nice warm bath. And here we have our next Let's Keep Things Cheap scene.